Hey guys, welcome into another episode of Saturdays Rewritten here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Man, we have got a fantastic slate of college football this weekend. September 27th, we are going to be up from 11 a.m. late into the night watching college football for this one, folks. I just know some poor soul is being dragged to a fall wedding this weekend. I pray for that man because, my gosh, some fantastic games to get into, ladies and gentlemen. So before we do that, however, if you would do me a favor and like this video and subscribe to my channel, that really helps. It's always appreciated. And if you're listening on podcast, if you leave me that 5-star review, that would be much appreciated as well. All right, guys, let's get into it. We got a lot to talk about. So first, it's going to be the number 21 USC Trojans and the number 23 Illinois Fighting Illini. So USC travels to Illinois in what will be their first encounter with Illinois since 2008's Rose Bowl, where USC dominated. That was when USC was just a historic dynasty. But overall, USC's dominated the series between the two programs, 11-2 all time. In fact, Illinois hasn't beaten the Trojans since 1935, but we don't play this game on paper, ladies and gentlemen. This game also represents USC's first Big Ten trip to Champaign, after obviously USC was in the Pac-12, and Illinois has always been in the Big Ten, or at least as long as I can remember. In any case, USC, Illinois, interesting matchup here. USC, on one hand, is on fire. Offensively, they've been fantastic all season, but defensively, a little bit weak at times. They gave up a lot of yards against Purdue, for example, in their win at Purdue, and then they gave up 31 points against Michigan State, and Michigan State, this is a Michigan State offense that, had 8 less points against Western Michigan in their matchup against Western Michigan earlier this year. So certainly some concerns for USC's defense on that end. And on the other side, for Illinois, they got off to a solid start this year, but then this last week, Illinois was ranked number 9 going into Indiana, number 19th ranked Indiana, and they just get eviscerated. I mean, just destroyed on national television, 63-10. Kurt Signetti, he, like I said last week, or in the last episode, he will eviscerate you. And he did just that against Illinois. Illinois couldn't stop him. Illinois couldn't score. They couldn't protect Luke Altmaier. By the way, that's one of my concerns for Illinois in this game is Luke Altmaier has been sacked 16 times this season already. 16 times. That's second most in the entire country, just behind Middle Tennessee State, who has 17 sacks allowed. Illinois comes in with 16. So that's not a good look, especially considering USC comes into this game with 16 sacks. Their defensive front gets after quarterbacks, and they bring the quarterback down just at a very impressive rate. It's been a combination for Illinois of Luke Altmaier holding the ball for too long and having poor pocket presence. But man, that offensive line, they got to look themselves in the mirror and just think, what's going on here? And this is supposed to be an experienced group of offensive linemen for Illinois. So I'm kind of surprised at what's happening there. For this game, I fully expect USC to come in and put up a lot of points. I expect the USC quarterback, Jaden Mayava, to continue and probably have another 300-plus yard day. But I also expect Luke Altmaier to have a much better go this time around. I mean, again, I think USC's defense is going to give up yardage in this game, and I expect this to, frankly, be a back-and-forth affair. But I just worry that Illinois, they're coming off of just an atrocious loss. Will they be able to bounce back? Coach Bielema, he's going to have them ready to go, you would think. And they're back at home, a really tough environment to go to in Champaign, Illinois. It's going to be interesting to see what USC can do there. And this is going to be the toughest test for USC thus far. Personally, I like USC in this one. I think their defense is going to put a ton of pressure on Luke Altmaier. USC is a little bit mediocre in the secondary, I think, so it's going to be close. But I'm probably going to lean with USC. Their offense looks good, and I think D'Anton Lynn will do just enough defensively to continue to put pressure on Luke Altmaier, and the Trojans come away with the win and keep marching on undefeated. We move on. Number 22, Notre Dame at Arkansas. I think this is going to be a shootout in Fayetteville, ladies and gentlemen. Notre Dame's defense has looked porous this season. I mean, Purdue put up 30 points on them. This is the same Purdue program that Notre Dame beat 66-3 last year. And Purdue puts up 30. Don't get me wrong, Purdue's improved, but my goodness, Notre Dame. And the week before, they gave up 41 to Texas A&M. Much better Texas A&M offense for sure. But Notre Dame's defense has not looked the same as last year. And I thought Notre Dame's defense was going to be a strength coming into this season. It's not been the case, not been something they could rely on. Notre Dame's offense has been having to put up a lot of points. Fortunately, I think they're going to be able to do that. You got C.J. Carr, you got Jeremiah Love, you got great receivers, you got great tight ends, good offensive line. I think Notre Dame's going to have no problem going up and down the field against this Arkansas defense that's given up a ton of points against Ole Miss, gave up a ton of points against Memphis, and they've frankly been turnstiles. And I think Coach Pittman, he is probably going to be gone. It may not be this week. It may not be, this season. They may let him finish it out. But the seat is hot right now, and they got a really tough schedule. And I just don't think Arkansas has what it takes to compete in this schedule. If they can't even beat Memphis, my goodness. So I think Notre Dame goes down there, is able to eke one out, maybe a 7-point win, 14-point win, something like that. A lot of points scored for both teams, but Notre Dame's able to come out with a win. And Notre Dame, they can't really afford another loss either. They've got to put up some impressive wins back-to-back here, and they may have to win out in order to hit the playoff. USC is looking better, so that's going to help their strength of schedule, but Notre Dame does not have a lot of wiggle room. How about Auburn at Texas A&M? Auburn coming off of a rough loss to the Oklahoma Sooners. They gave up 10 sacks in that game. 10. Now, to be fair, Oklahoma's defense, I think, is elite. They are fantastic. But 10 sacks. Partial blame on the offensive line, but also partial blame on Jackson Arnold. It seems as though when Jackson Arnold's first option is taken away, that it's going to be a sack. It seems like that's the case. He doesn't know where to go to his other reads. He just doesn't seem as polished in that regard. So I think Texas A&M with Mike Elko, they're going to ramp up the pressure and try to disguise blitzes. Elko's known for that. And I think Jackson Arnold could be in a world of hurt once again against Texas A&M. I just think Mike Elko, he's a good defensive mind, and he is kind of a mad scientist in that effect. Also, it gets worse for Auburn, I think. Not only do you lose a tough one on the road at Oklahoma, you now have to go right back on the road again to Kyle Field and play a Texas A&M team that is rested off of a bye week. So it's just kind of stacking up for Auburn right now. Texas A&M is also very good with explosive pass plays downfield or explosive run plays up the middle. One of the most explosive teams in the country are the Aggies, and it just so happens that Auburn's secondary is porous. They are one of the worst at giving up big pass plays over the top this season. The one thing I will say is Auburn's defense is really good at stopping the run. They held Oklahoma to 32 yards on the ground last week, and this season they're currently, I think, only giving up 58, under 60 yards of rushing per game. That is phenomenal. So their defensive front is good. That's going to be the battle in the trenches to watch out for. Texas A&M's offensive line versus Auburn's defensive line. Who wins out? I think that's going to play a big part in helping us figure out who's going to win this game. If Auburn's defensive front is able to keep the run game in check and force Marcel Reed, who is under 60% pass completion, to win the game throwing the ball down the field, I think Auburn may have more of a shot in this one. Offensively, if Auburn were to have it their way, they're going to want to dominate on the ground. They're going to want to rely on their rushing attack, probably some quarterback run mixed in there, and they're going to grind this game out to where you just suck the life out of Kyle Field. You're trying to march the ball methodically down the field, keep Texas A&M's offense off of the field. That, in a perfect world, is what Auburn wants to do. But don't you think Texas A&M knows that as well? They know that over in College Station, that's probably the game plan. And I'm sure they have it primed and ready to go to try and stop that from happening. So this one, to me, is kind of a toss-up. I could see Auburn coming in here and grinding their way to a victory and bouncing their way back into a national conversation. But I could also see Texas A&M thinking, you know what, we're sick of only winning 8 or 9 games. This is the time for us to finally break into double digits this year and ending that curse. I think Texas A&M has the talent to do that. What's going to happen on the field? I can't say. What do you guys think? Comment below. An interesting matchup. That is a 3:30 Eastern time kickoff at Kyle Field. Another one. Ohio State, the number 1 Ohio State Buckeyes on the road in Seattle at Washington. You know what? I like this matchup. This is a classic, or not a classic per se, but just two good brands doing battle here. Of course, the Ohio State Buckeyes, but the Washington Huskies, as a Cougar, I hate saying this, but the Washington Huskies, I mean, they have a lot of tradition and history as well. And it's cool to see these guys face off once again. These teams have faced off 12 times before. Most recently was in the 2019 Rose Bowl game where Ohio State was able to pull off a close win after a furious Washington comeback effort. I believe that was Urban Meyer's last game as well. So that is the history between the two programs. Some things of note. I think the Huskies have one of the underrated home environments in all of college football. And I think it's forgotten a lot because they're all the way out on the West Coast. There's this East Coast, this southern SEC bias, the Big Ten bias. Basically, if you're out west, nobody thinks of it these days. But the Huskies, just FYI, are on a 22 home game win streak. That is mighty impressive. That's only second in the nation behind Georgia. We'll talk about them here. They've got a big game this week. It is not an easy place to play, ladies and gentlemen, and it is designed similar to that of the Seattle Seahawks with Lumen Field, where the architects designed it so that the crowd noise would be directed right back onto the field with these overhangs. And it's one of the most beautiful scenic stadiums in all of college football. Truly a great home environment in Seattle. I can't wait to watch this one. And folks, the Huskies are good. They are good. They are much improved. They have got a good coaching staff with Coach Fish. A lot of NFL minds on that side of the field. Coach Fish spent a lot of time in the NFL, and the Huskies have a great offense. They have been on fire, averaging 55 points a game this season, and they've got some weapons on that side of the field. You know, I think the Huskies do have a shot to win this game, but I think it's going to take a couple of things. I think early on the Huskies need to break off a big run early on in the game, and they have the talent to do that. It could be their quarterback, Damon Williams Jr., running back Jonah Coleman is a stud, wide receiver Denzel Boston. They've got weapons across the field, and they smoked my Cougs in Pullman. I just got to say, anytime our defense had a chance to get off the field, the Huskies just pulled something out perfectly, executed it flawlessly, and marched down the field over and over again and put up 59 points on the Cougs in Pullman. They've got a good offense, and they've got a solid defense. I think the Buckeyes are going to be able to score, and this could be, more of a shootout type game, but I think the Huskies are going to be able to put up points at home. For the Huskies to win, though, I do think, like I said, a big run needs to happen early on in the game, or they get a turnover early in the game, and suddenly we're talking like a dogfight, pun intended, and the Buckeyes are on the ropes. I think we could be looking at that kind of game. I already had Eric Boggs on the show, and he thinks that this is going to be one of the Buckeyes' losses this year in Seattle. But win 10 and you're in, that's fine. There's just a lot of unknowns still at this point of the season, and I don't know how Ohio State's Julian Sayin is going to react to this environment on the road. The Huskies also like to play a lot of man-to-man, which makes me worried for their coverage of Jeremiah Smith. Jeremiah Smith's probably licking his lips at that news. You know, we saw what he did against Notre Dame. He won the game with that deep route towards the end of the game, and I think that he could have a good day against the Huskies as well. But the Huskies know that. The Buckeyes have the receivers to beat man to man, but they would also like to establish a run game, I'm sure. So the both teams, by the way, have great pass rush. Which quarterback is going to be more protected? I think Damon Williams, with his ability to get outside the pocket to run with his legs, makes him a little bit more of a threat. The Buckeyes are probably going to have to try and contain him as opposed to straight pass rushing him. But on the flip side, Julian Sayin, I do think maybe he could be more at risk. The Buckeyes have certainly a solid offensive line, but the Huskies, they get after the quarterback too, and man-to-man coverage, that's their whole goal. Make the quarterback hold the ball longer, waiting for the receivers to get open. So there's going to be a lot of mesh concepts probably from the Buckeyes in order to stop this man-to-man coverage. It's going to be a fun chess match on that end of the field between Ryan Day and Jedd Fisch. So very interesting game here. I would probably lean toward Ohio State getting the win in this one. I just think that they overall have the more talent, but don't sleep on the Huskies. I would not be shocked if Washington pulled it off and beat Ohio State. I think it's that close of a pick for me. Huskies could very well do this. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to be a fun one. What else do we have here? How about Indiana at Iowa? Honestly, I think Indiana's going to win this one. The only reason I have it highlighted is because Iowa's a tough place to play. Indiana, and especially after such a euphoric night, Indiana dominating Illinois. Everything goes right for them. It's a home crowd event packed to the rafters. Indiana this week has been heard nothing but, oh my gosh, you guys are incredible. Oh, you guys are going back to the college football playoff. What a game. You guys could do nothing wrong. You guys are amazing. That's all they've heard all week from the media, from the fans. Rat poison, as a lot of coaches would say. I'm sure Coach Cignetti is not letting that get to their heads. I'm sure he's pounded it in there that, hey, we have to go on the road to a tough Iowa team and win at a really tough spot. It's going to be kind of a grind. I could see it being a little bit more grinded out, but Indiana's got a great quarterback in Mendoza, man. He's been flawless all season. I think that probably continues in this game, and Indiana, it might be slow going early on, but I think Indiana pulls away from Iowa. Just keep an eye out on that one. I don't know if it's upset alert, but could be a trap game. Speaking of trap game, number 15, Tennessee at Mississippi State. I don't think Tennessee views this as a trap game anymore. Mississippi State is undefeated. What a turnaround that Jeff Lebby has done for this program thus far. They've already beaten a top 25 program in Arizona State, and Mississippi State is always a tough place to play with the Cowbells in Starkville. But Tennessee, this is a different Tennessee Volunteer team. If we were talking a Nico Iamaleava-led offense where he struggled with the deep ball, I don't know. I may have picked Mississippi State, frankly. Sorry, Nico, but I think Aguilar is a fantastic quarterback for Tennessee, and he is not afraid to send this one deep. I'm leaning towards Tennessee. Tennessee also just brings that physicality that they haven't brought in years past. We saw that against Georgia, where they were step for step with Georgia in the trenches. I could see Tennessee winning this one and giving Mississippi State their first loss of the season. Still, heck of a turnaround thus far for Mississippi State. Good to see them back on the winning side of things. I just think Tennessee brings a lot of talent on the outside. They're going to put up points, and then defensively, they're much improved as well. So I like Tennessee. They were solid last year on defense too. How about this one? LSU at number 13, Ole Miss. My goodness, this could be another fun one. The Magnolia Bowl, the 113th meeting in the LSU Ole Miss rivalry. LSU leads the overall series 64-42. Sorry, Ole Miss. 4 ties, by the way. Ole Miss has been dangerous in recent showdowns, however, because the two teams have split the last 4 games, 2-2. The Rebels lead, some stats to think about for this game. The Rebels lead the SEC in average yards per pass attempt, 11 yards per throw, and they're top 3 in passing yardage. By the way, this is with Trinidad Chambliss as their starting quarterback. It was going to be Austin Simmons, but Simmons is dealing with an ankle injury right now. Chambliss has stepped in and played fantastic. He looked great in their win 45-10 against Tulane, and Tulane's, no slouch. They've been a pretty solid team out of the American. But Chambliss has done great job stepping in for Austin Simmons. So I still think Ole Miss's offense is going to be quite a dangerous opponent here for LSU. But an interesting dichotomy here. Ole Miss's ground attack is explosive, creating big-time plays. However, their rush defense is more vulnerable. They surrender 5.15 yards per carry on average. And then the LSU run defense is elite. LSU only gives up 64 rushing yards per game, just 2.5 yards per carry. That is intense. Among the top run defenses in the SEC. And LSU did that against a team like Clemson. And Clemson has not looked good, but still, I think Clemson has a lot of talent over there on that roster. They're stout in coverage, too. LSU leads the SEC with 6 interceptions. Excuse me. 5 of them came against Florida, to be fair. So that's where a lot of the interceptions came from, but they're second in pass breakups as well, and they've only allowed 7 receptions of 20-plus yards, 4th best in the SEC. So they like to keep the lid on this thing, and they're not going to let Chambliss throw the ball over the top. Chambliss, by the way, transferred from Ferris State, so this has not been too big of shoes for him to fill lately. Interesting game there. I just think LSU's defense is... I think they're going to do well enough to contain Ole Miss's dangerous offense. All the while, Garrett Nussmeier and LSU's offense are going to be able to do enough against Ole Miss to come out with the win. It could be a gritty win. It could be an ugly win. But Ole Miss has proven that they can go out and get that done. They were in a dogfight with Clemson. They were in a dogfight with Florida, and they came out on top. I think they'll do the same here at Ole Miss. I just think LSU's defense is going to keep them in it no matter what. Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, great offensive mind. If a team was going to break the LSU defense open, it would be Ole Miss. So I'm excited to watch that one. Ole Miss at home is always dangerous. So maybe Ole Miss proves me wrong here. Let's see. Oregon at Penn State. Number 6, Oregon. Number 3, Penn State. What's not to like, ladies and gentlemen? Both of these teams met in the Big Ten championship game last year, so Penn State's out for some revenge, right? We'll see. Penn State has won 6 straight full stadium whiteout games at Beaver Stadium and holds an 11-6 record all time in such games. Nittany Lions will deploy the electric atmosphere under the lights against number 6 Oregon, hoping to make it 7 in a row. And yeah, this is a 6:30 kickoff for this one, so we're going to get to see the full version of the whiteout. Thank goodness. No more big noon kickoff getting in the way of that and turning it into a noon game. Thank you. Boy, oh boy. I mean, this game is fantastic. Oregon has looked elite all season. Offensively, they've almost looked improved from last year's offense. Dante Moore, he throws a beautiful pass. Okay. He could be a Heisman guy by the end of the season. And if he goes on the road and beats Penn State at Penn State under the lights in a whiteout, that would only vault him into the conversation with the Heisman Trophy race. I mean, he has played phenomenally. Offensively, all in all, Oregon just a very balanced attack. They're gonna attack you with the run. They're gonna try to throw the ball over the top as well. They got talent on the outside. The offensive line's been good. They have not been tested like they're about to be tested, of course, with Penn State, but Penn State hasn't been tested like this either. Penn State has had an incredibly easy run of games thus far to get them to this point. So both teams are about to run into just an elite foe that they really hadn't seen yet thus far. Excuse me. For Penn State, though, a little bit more so. So here's some statistics for you, by the way. Penn State sits 3rd nationally in scoring defense. They're allowing just 6 points per game. Again, that's more of a facet of the fact that they haven't played anybody. They're 9th in total defense at 224 yards per game. Still really good. They're also 3rd in red zone defense, allowing touchdowns on only 50% of red zone trips. You're only getting you got a 50% shot of scoring a touchdown on these guys. Oregon, meanwhile, has been explosive offensively. The Ducks have 27 touchdowns thus far across all their offense, and Dante Moore, he's the facilitator for that offense. He's completing 74.7% of his passes, and he's tossed 11 touchdowns to just 1 interception this season. On Penn State side, Drew Aller, he has weapons. Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen. Allen in particular has been electric, pushing momentum in key moments. Oregon's offense features depth in receivers and a strong O-line, but their defense is somewhat vulnerable. So some key matchups to keep an eye on for this game. Oregon's deep passing versus Penn State's secondary. They must stay disciplined, and they've got, again, the coordinator from Ohio State from last year and then Penn State's front seven versus Oregon. They've got to put some pressure on Dante Moore, especially in the run-pass balance. Red zone efficiency, both squads, they're going to be challenged in the red zone. Let's see who wins out. In this one, gosh, I'm probably going to lean towards Penn State just because if Penn State can't win this one, what chance have they got at Ohio State? I mean, they've got to come out and win this kind of a ball game. Coach Franklin knows that he is up against it with regards to his record against top 10 foes. And this is a chance to at least quiet the critics just for a little bit until they go to Columbus, Ohio later this year. I mean, to me, all the pressure is on Penn State. Oregon, if they lose this one, just win 10 and you're in. That's all Oregon has to think about. I still think Oregon could very well come in and win this one. But I just think all the pressure is on Penn State. Coach Franklin and company know that. A lot of these guys came back to Penn State just for the chance to run at a title together and improve their draft stock. So, to me, Penn State, they know that. It's a whiteout environment. I'll take Penn State. Very close. Again, I wouldn't be shocked if Oregon won. How about Alabama at Georgia? I mean, Alabama, to me, Georgia has had a great start to the season. They just had a fantastic win against Tennessee. Both of these teams were off last week, getting rested up and ready to attack. This game is going to be a war. Last time these two teams met, Alabama, of course, got the better of Georgia, winning at home in what would be a shootout in the second half after Alabama laid the wood to Georgia in the first half of that game. Alabama almost choked it away before ultimately pulling away and winning in the second half of that game. Some statistics to keep in mind. Third down defense, a glaring weakness for Alabama. They rank 119th nationally, allowing conversions 45% of the time. The red zone has been a struggle for Alabama, allowing opponents to score on all red zone trips 100% of the time. That doesn't always mean a touchdown, but they've allowed scoring 100% of the time. Georgia's offense, about 85th nationally in turnover margin. They've struggled with the turnover bug here at -1, while Alabama sits at +6, fourth best. So they've been very protective with the ball. The Bulldogs, they average about 200 yards, 209 total rush yards per game, 30th nationally. They've leaned heavily on the balance, and with Gunnar Stockton at quarterback, you also got to consider him as a threat. But Gunnar Stockton has impressed me throwing the ball down the field. The moment at Tennessee was not too big for him like I thought it could have been. Shout out to Gunnar Stockton. He has impressed me immensely. Ty Simpson, he's looked sharp lately. Yes, it's been against Ole Monroe and against Wisconsin, and Wisconsin's been struggling. They just lost to Maryland last weekend. But he's been 41 of 46 for 608 yards passing and 7 touchdowns. That's nearly perfect. What more can you ask of him? Georgia's pass defense has shown cracks. In their game against Tennessee, they allowed 371 passing yards and 4 touchdowns, and numerous passing touchdowns way over the top, and Tennessee was just able to outgun them and bring that in. Alabama has elite weapons with Ryan Williams on the outside. If anybody can beat Georgia over the top, Tennessee was one of those teams, and Alabama's another one. Let me tell you, Alabama's got the weapons over the top that I think can really show those cracks for Georgia's defense. Alabama is getting reinforcements as well. Jam Miller, he had a collarbone injury. He's back. Defensive tackle Tim Keenan III, he had ankle surgery. He's set to return this week. Georgia has had instability on their offensive line. They've had 3 different units so far this season. Georgia may be favored by 3 to 3.5 points at home. The over-under set at around 52.5 to 53.5. Advanced metrics and predictive models slightly favor Alabama in this matchup, citing matchup advantages and inefficiencies, in Georgia's defense. One more stat. Alabama ranks 91st in penalty yards per game, 60.7, which is high. Very undisciplined at times. Georgia, by contrast, is among the cleanest, 26 penalty yards per game, fourth best. So that could come into play here. The Tide have to get that cleaned up. My questions are, can Bama exploit Georgia's secondary with Ty Simpson's hot hand and Ryan Williams over the top? Can Georgia's run game and QB runs challenge Bama's defensive front? Penalties and turnovers could swing the momentum heavily in this one. Red zone efficiency is going to be decisive. Home field crowd, of course. Georgia, they're on a 33-game home winning streak. I mentioned the Huskies earlier in the show having 20 or 21. Georgia's at 33. They haven't lost at home in Athens since 2019. For context, it's the longest home streak in the SEC history, behind only Alabama's 57-game home streak from home winning streak from 1963 to 1982. There's some history for you. So what a game we have coming up here. I'm leaning Alabama, folks. That's just where I'm at. I think Alabama has desperation. I think they know that, oh man, if we don't win this one, they got to pretty much run the table if they want any shot at going to the college football playoff. And technically they could still get in with 3 losses, I think. But why put yourself in that position? Win 10 and you're in. 10 and you're in. That's the rule that I typically live by, especially for these top tier programs. Win 10 and you're in. So I think Bama knows this. I think they want to prove that, hey, that loss to Florida State, we've corrected some things and we're here to stay. And Kalen DeBoer, he's 6-0 against the likes of Steve Sarkisian, Dan Lanning, and Kirby Smart. I think Alabama goes in and gets it done. They're more desperate. They're on the road. They're going to throw the ball over the top, I think. Yes, Georgia could probably correct some things, but I don't know. I just think I like Kalen DeBoer in these types of games. He knows the pressure. When he comes in, his team tends to perform. And, I don't know. I could just see it happening. So I'm rolling with it. I can't wait to watch this Saturday. Who do you guys think comes out on top? Georgia, Alabama, Penn State, Oregon. Make your picks below. Tell me why I'm wrong. This is going to be a fantastic Saturday. Look forward to watching it with you all. See you next time.